Good morning and welcome to the SeeHer Women in Sports panel. I am Stephanie McMahon, Chief Brand Officer of WWE. SeeHer started as an opportunity to represent the equal and accurate portrayal of women across advertising and has since expanded to include entertainment and now sports. I was incredibly proud to be a part of the initial meeting at Anheuser-Busch where we brought together media, brands, partners, athletes to really discuss the importance of equality and representation, especially across sports. And WWE, we had the opportunity to listen to our audience, and they demanded more from us in terms of how we represented our women, which has now led to a complete change in how we represent our women in our programming and has led to a match that happened in Abu Dhabi where there was a chant of "This is hope," and ultimately led to two women's matches in Saudi Arabia where the chant was simply "This is awesome," as it should be. That being said, within the past year, there has been a 30% increase in social conversation about women's sports leagues. Female-focused sports ads are perceived as 148% more empowering than sports ads with men. And when the ad stars a female athlete as opposed to a male, it even increases the likelihood that that man will buy the product. Yet, a study from Purdue in 2019 showed that coverage of female athletes on television news and highlight shows, think top 10 sports reels, top 10 moments, is only 5.4%. 5.4%, which is obviously way too low. That needs to be 50% or greater, in my opinion. There's still so much further we have to go to achieve our collective mission. So with that, allow me to please introduce our esteemed panel. First, we have Janet Fletcher, Senior Brand Director Olympics and Sports Marketing from P&G. Janet started her marketing career in 2000 with roles spanning design of global product initiatives to leading marketing for P&G beauty brands. In 2009, she led the first P&G Vancouver Olympics program, which led to a 10-year partnership with the International Olympic Committee. She is one of the original architects behind the award-winning Thank You Mom campaign. Andrea Fairchild, SVP Global Sponsorship Strategy, Visa. Andrea leads Visa's global sponsorships portfolio, including the Olympics and Paralympics, FIFA, and NFL. Visa is proud to be a long-standing supporter of the Olympic and Paralympic Games and the athletes who dedicate their lives to training to compete at the highest level of their sports. Laura Mullen, President, Advertising and Partnerships, NBCU. Laura has strategic oversight of all advertising sales initiatives for NBCU's cable, Hispanic news networks, as well as digital partnerships, including NBCU's premier digital platform, Peacock. Laura is a passionate advocate for the accurate portrayal of women and girls in all media and has done significant work around the ANA SeeHer initiative since its original launch 5 years ago. And last but not least, we have KATRINA GALAS, who is Women's Sports Strategy Consultant in Common Consulting. KATRINA is the founder of In Common Consulting, a consulting firm that focuses on advancing women's sports across the entire sports ecosystem. KATRINA's recent work with the Women's Sports Foundation helped to advance the Equity Project and their Equality Can't Wait initiative, and more recently, WSF's partnership with Sports Innovation Lab for the FAN Project. Her past experience in the sports industry and personal experience as a multi-sport athlete have enabled her to carry out WSF's mission to enable all girls and women to reach their full potential in sports and in life. So first, we're going to start off and welcome everybody with Janet. Janet, P&G is known for its bold and inspiring inclusive campaigns like your Lead with Love campaign or the aforementioned unforgettable Thank You Mom campaign. This year's campaign is a little bit different. It's called Your Goodness in Your Greatness. Before I ask you about the strategy and the slight pivot with this, let's take a look.
Your whole life, you've done things I could have never imagined doing. things almost no one in the world can do.
But I'm proud of you for something else.
I'm proud of you for doing the things that we could all be doing.
The things you do, not for yourself,
Look at that.
but for others.
The things you do every day.
Things that matter.
Share my story.
The impact you have on the world around you.
And I can't wait to see what you do next.
Janet, why is this such an important mission to share with during the Olympics with the audience? Why did you make this pivot?
Oh my gosh, the Tokyo 2020 Olympics, right? A games like no other. When we were delayed a year, it took us a while to figure out what should we talk about, how should we communicate to still stay relevant with COVID and everything that was happening. So we went back and actually, the sources of our inspiration have stayed pretty consistent. It's our athletes and our families that we go to seek that advice. And when we checked in with all of our athletes, we were so inspired. Not only the fact that their dreams were postponed did not leave them sulking. They were doing things above and beyond sports, making changes in the world. Allison Felix talking about maternal health of African American women. Elena Deladon's foundation still supporting people with special needs. Carissa Moore trying to encourage girls to be surfing. They didn't sit still, and it was so inspiring to see all the good that they were doing in their community. When you then couple that with the second source of inspiration, which is their parents, I'll just give one example. Marlene Felix and I, Allison's mom, met back in London 2012, and we've stayed together. We've stayed in touch over the years. And I would talk to her and I'd say, "Aren't you so proud of Allison's golds and medals and things like that?" And she said, "I'm very happy about that, but I'll tell you, I'm more happy with the woman that she's becoming. I'm more happy that she's finding her voice, that she's a good mother, that she wants to help the world." And that's what she was most proud of. And as a mother of three, that insight that as parents, the biggest accomplishment we can have is to raise good kids who do good things in the world. Everything else is gravy, but just raising good kids. So that was a bit of the pivot that we did around this piece of your goodness is your greatness, acknowledging that the good things that people do are great, inspired by the athlete's story. So it's so telling. Our world needs so much help right now. That's a whole different panel. But that was the inspiration behind that film.
Fantastic. And Andrea, I'm going to pivot a little bit here because Janet was just talking about Allison and the mental health and the strength of all of these athletes and the mental health that they had to have to get through the COVID time periods, everything else, let alone compete. One of your most prominent athletes is Simone Biles. So, what was it like behind the scenes in your decision making to continue to support Simone as she was going through her own mental health struggles?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the biggest moments was when Simone decided to withdraw from group competition, and it was absolutely heartbreaking to learn what she was going through. But her decision was inspiring, and it was extremely brave. So, we as a sponsor of both the games and Simone knew that it was incredibly important that we make it known that we fully supported her. And, what is the Olympic community if we don't stand with one another at, our lows just as much as we do our highs? What's most important is, just uplifting one another when they need it the most and celebrate each other even when it's kind of the most deserving at that time. It was such a unique situation, and I think what was important along the way was just listening to her, listening to the voice of the athlete. We spent a lot of time with her team, understanding kind of her personal journey at that moment and what would be the best way to show support and, in being, her partner. She has always been just a huge source of inspiration for fans everywhere, kind of doing what no athlete has never done before on the mat. And, we just wanted to ensure the world understood that while she was this, spectacle, that what she could all teach us outside of the gym was far more powerful. And that message deserved the spotlight. These athletes, they own and respect the appreciation for who they are as humans, first and foremost, and kind of the global athlete sensation comes next.
And speaking of Visa's endorsement, this year you had your most diverse talent roster to date. Can you speak a little bit more about how Visa determines what athletes to support and endorse, not only around the Olympics, but in general? And also then, you've already spoken about the power of the athletes' voices, but then how did that give rise to your campaign?
Yeah, absolutely. So, since kind of the inception of Team Visa, which started in 2000, we have made it our mission that 54% or higher of those athletes are women. In the recent Tokyo Games, we added 41 additions to the Olympic and Paralympic movement on Team Visa. And totally, we've recognized over 494 athletes that embody Visa's core values and really demonstrate that athletic excellence in sport. And to your question, we recognize the power of the athletes and their selection, and we really aim to kind of align that with our brand. And we want to make sure that they represent those core values that we have of access, equality, and inclusion. And we feel like it's never been more important than today to kind of feel that connection. And we want to make sure that they're supported, and then also how that is uplifting others. So we want to make sure that they really personify the Visa brand, just as I mentioned, those values and behaviors. It's also important to understand, that the athletes within Team Visa can deliver kind of powerful and inspirational storytelling opportunities for us from a brand perspective, that they really create kind of this, breakthrough and extend our reach and our cultural connection. And then that they validate our commitment. We have such a longstanding commitment to the Olympic and Paralympic movement that they really validate and embody that. So those are the things that are important to us as it relates to selection process within our Team Visa roster.
And given all of that, I would love to, at this point, throw to Visa's campaign this year called Making It.
What does it take to make it? In the race to succeed, does somebody always have to fail? We've got to start lifting each other up and give everybody a fair shot. Because when that happens, we've all made it.
These campaigns are so incredibly powerful. It's hard not to react emotionally when you see them. Such critical messaging. So grateful to all of you for that. KATRINA, I'm actually going to throw to you now for some of the stats to really back up, the power of brands supporting athletes, supporting equality and diversity across all of these different platforms. So you've been instrumental in the Women's Sports Foundation's Equity Project, the Sports Innovation Lab's The FAN Project, and both studies have published really impactful data demonstrating the opportunity to invest and grow women's sports. We actually understand there's been a growth of over 12 times in fans of women's sports by engaging athlete-driven media across all different platforms in the past 5 years. So can you speak a little bit more to those statistics, and for those listening and watching, why it is so important and how it does help grow not only all of us as human beings, but of course our businesses?
Yes, definitely. And Stephanie, you mentioned a lot of great statistics up off the top here, and I think that I'm definitely a stakeholder, as we all are, in the FAN project, the Equity Project, and all the other amazing research that's being done across the industry. And so I'd just like to acknowledge all of the entities that are prioritizing that and actually wanting to learn more to advance this industry. I'd love to touch quickly on 4 different components of the women's sports ecosystem. So first of all, female athletes. So recently at Tokyo 2020, we saw Team USA. Actually, the medals were won by a majority of women. So 58% of those 113 medals were won by women, which is quite amazing. And I know there's a lot of international people listening in today, and so I also wanted to acknowledge that for Team Canada, it was actually a little bit higher at 75%. And so this is definitely a trend to watch around the world, and I think those percentages are only going to grow. When we look at female fans, Nielsen did an amazing report back in 2018, pointing towards the fact that 84% of sport fans, and now more than half of those were actually men, are interested in women's sports. And so implications of that are, we're seeing Just Women's Sports invest in different navigational tools for fans to tune in more quickly. CONCACAF W is building out a whole community around their women's soccer events. It's definitely being acknowledged that people want to watch these events. With regards to women's sports in general, the Women's Sports Foundation's Chasing Equity project looked a little bit further into Title IX, and the knowledge and compliance still remains low across the NCAA, just under 90% actually. So there's still room for improvement there, especially as we approach the 50th anniversary of Title IX. And then finally, women in sports. So that's both leaders, as all of us are on the call today, listening in as well, and then participants, people who are active in their daily life. And so looking at the IOC gender portrayal guidelines, this is a key resource that's being created to help organizations really be intentional about the decision making that they're doing around women's sports and their investments in it. And then from participation standpoint, Project Play has done extensive research on youth sports and a safe return to sport. So a lot of key data to help us along the way.
And speaking of data, Laura, coming to you now, NBCU has been a long-time supporter of SeeHer. We've seen many different representations of that across the Olympics and all other forms of media. Can you share any key highlights and learnings out of this year's Olympics in particular, and of course the Paralympics?
Sure. Thank you so much. So much of what KATRINA, Janet, and Andrea shared is what we are seeing, the stories of the women, the journey that they're taking. And we're seeing other women celebrating these female athletes. Over 2/3 of the social conversation on Facebook was women celebrating the female athletes. And 7 of the top 10 athletes talked the most about were the female athletes. We dedicated almost 60% of our hours in Tokyo to female sports, and we see even more of that in the future. The fans are so passionate, and their stories are ones that people can just gather around, celebrate, and really cheer on these athletes. And as KATRINA mentioned, the women won 58% of the medals, 66 medals, which would have placed the U.S. women alone as the 4th largest country to win medals. So female sports, she mentions, and KATRINA mentioned NCAA. The U.S. women's basketball holds their reign as champions with a I think it's 55 winning game streak. So we see our fans, they want to celebrate, they're cheering on, they're talking about it on social, watching across all platforms. And the stories really just keep them so motivated to focus on these fans, on these athletes.
So, Laura, I'm just going to go to something personal here because you've been invested in every different way possible. And Gigi is currently, your daughter, is currently working for SeeHer and recently wrote a blog. Can you please share a little bit about, your perspective as a mother of daughters and, how excited you are about what she's doing?
Sure, thank you. My daughter actually was given a See Her internship. She applied. We were speaking on the Women in Media committee, and we were talking about how to get the perspective of the younger females, we really needed to have them telling us what they were seeing, what they were thinking, and thus they brought in some younger interns. Gigi is an athlete. She plays lacrosse and volleyball, and she just shared how confidence is so important, not only for herself, but to give it to other women. And I think it's just such a great theme to see women celebrating other women, giving each other confidence. And you see this in team sports. I read something recently that it's 2/3 of all women in the C-suite played sports. And so just having that camaraderie of cheering on another person only lifts you up. And that's what Gigi shared in her blog. And we see that in the Olympics all the time. I mean, we saw it with soccer team, the volleyball team winning their first Olympic gold. So many unbelievable chances to cheer on each other women in respective sports. And that's what Gigi shared inspires her the most, is to be able to cheer on her peers. She goes to an all-girls school, and so it's a common theme to support and give confidence to other women.
And Andrea, I wanted to ask you about that intentionality and taking a stand, especially as a brand. So in 2019, Visa announced that they would support the U.S. women's national team at an equal level to the men's team. And since then, you've seen positive brand affinity and engagement. How has your sponsorship model evolved over the years? But most importantly, what is the importance of taking a stand like that? It was such a bold and brave move.
Yeah,
And shouldn't have
absolutely.
been necessarily, but it was at the time, and a true
Yeah.
first mover.
Yes, absolutely. But I think that's what, it was such a positive impact, right? And I'm so proud of, of being able to do that. As you mentioned in 2019, we made that commitment to elevate our sponsorships. And that was also part of the transformation and move forward as a brand that's kind of shifting that paradigm of overall gender inequality in sports and really beyond. And you know, we also made the commitment that a significant portion of Visa's marketing spend is now intentionally focused on amplifying the message of gender equality, investing in women's athletes through team and individual support on and off the field. Including the example that was given around FIFA's Women's World Cup. We now proudly sponsor, we've added 18 female footballers to the Team Visa roster. And, again, we couldn't be more proud of the impact that has made. With that said, Visa has always stood for really making a transformational impact. That's what the brand has always stood for. And it's not about simply putting your logo up on venues anymore. It's really about supporting local communities, how you're empowering others, empowering small business owners for us, and advancing opportunities for those underrepresented groups. And, I think everyone knows this, like brand purpose really represents why a company exists, and all brands should be able to identify that why. And at Visa, when we did evolve our sponsorships so that our business priorities and our brand purpose strategy better aligned, it gave us a purpose, and our purpose is to connect the world. And, then how that manifests itself is a perfect example in women's sports. And we want to ensure that, we are uplifting, we are helping others to thrive along the way. And today, I think just with everything that we're talking about as well, it's never been more important for brands, especially to have that connection supporting others and really helping to uplift those communities.
I love it. And to bring us home, I'm coming back to you, Janet, especially around P&G's most recent campaign. Here we have a panel of all women supporting this incredible movement. And I think you've heard from all of us, but I think we need to watch this video, this campaign that's entitled, Just Watch Me.
Will you watch me? Will you fill up the bleachers? Show up and watch me? Don't let me drop out. Show me your support. Turn out the crowds. Watch me today so I know there's a place for me tomorrow. Just watch me.
Janet, can you please quickly share a little bit of the strategy behind this and really bring this panel home?
As a marketing person, when you find a statistic or a fact that is just so provocative, it becomes the creative gem from which you can build a message. And the statistic that was shared in the copy was, by age 14, girls drop out of sports twice the rate of boys. And we all believe and know what sports gives us, right? So what I thought was really interesting, though, is it's not anyone else's problem. The call to action in this film says we can help turn that around. We are the fans that can fill the stands. We are the marketers that can invest in athletes, female athletes. We are the sponsors that can support with our media investments where to play. The call to action is a mobilizing call to watch her and help the next generation of girls become powerful women. So I love it. Great message.
Well, my goodness, I think you just said it best. We are the fans. We are the marketers. We are the sponsors. We are the ones who are going to make a difference collectively. All of you watching, all of us behind the scenes, all of us in front of the camera. Together, only together can we actually make this impact and change. And I think just a few key takeaways is the purpose, the why of your brand and what you're trying to accomplish, the intentionality. You heard from various speakers today talking about the intention of representing 54% of athletes being women, or 60% of NBCU's coverage of the Olympic sports being for female sports. It's being intentional, it's being bold, it's being brave, it's investing in one another. So thank you very much for watching today. You can go to SeeHer.com to learn more. And now we're looking forward to Chris Guilfoyle, the EVP of Membership.
Hi, Janine SHAO Collins, president of SeeHer. Welcome everybody from the Global Day of Learning. I hope you enjoyed that peek into the SeeHer member meeting. To get the full member meeting, please go to the Global Day of Learning's on-demand portion, and you'll see Telemundo, TikTok, SeeHer, Hear Her, our music task force, and so much more amazing content. And we hope all of you believe in our mission to advance the accurate portrayal of women and girls in media, advertising, content, and entertainment. And if so, please go to SeeHer.info.com to get more information and potentially join. And once again, we're so thrilled to be part of this Global Day of Learning. It's been amazing. Thank you.